Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe on another Thursday night, getting ready for football. We got the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Baltimore Ravens getting ready to go in about an hour, and we have a lot of stuff going on in football. Teams on the rise we never thought we'd see rising. Teams on the decline we never thought we'd see declining. But I understand we got some breaking news. Nate, what do we got going on?
Yeah, this one's a rough one. Wow. I hope this isn't true, but this has been confirmed or not confirmed, but been reported by several different outlets that the Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase is
Ooh.
banged up and could potentially be out 4 to 6 weeks with a hip problem. The injury first popped up a couple of weeks ago, actually, when he was playing against, I believe it was the New Orleans Saints in week 6. And it's been getting progressively worse. And he pulled up at one point against the Atlanta Falcons
I think I
and,
remember that.
yeah, had to go off to the sideline. He came back in, tried to finish the game. He met with reporters after the game and was asked about the injury, and he declined to go into specifics. But he has seen a specialist this week. He's trying to get some additional answers, but so far, what the word is that he is day to day based on Zach Taylor, but the recovery for the type of injury that he's supposedly dealing with is going to be a minimum of 4 weeks.
Well, I mean, neither of the other two wide receivers are as good as him, but they are quality wide receivers.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's the one. The only positive with this is that the Cincinnati Bengals are the only team in the NFL that have 3 wide receivers that all have over 400 yards receiving.
right.
So they've got 3 straight up dudes. And if any team could survive without their number one for a couple of weeks, it's them. Now, this is 4 weeks, I think, is probably doable. 6 weeks, that's a different story because you're talking about almost getting to playoff time without your most explosive weapon, and that could spell trouble. But luckily, they play the Browns this weekend, so
Yeah,
hopefully
they
they'll
should
be
take care
just
of
fine.
business there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got a lot to get to. We have a lot to cover. The two number 12s, we're going to get to that later. Brady and Rogers, who suddenly look like they should have, Brady should have stayed retired, and Rogers should have really considered it the way they're playing right now. But let's get into Indianapolis first. Matt Ryan, who was brought in to be the savior, is benched. Now, you and I talked about Sam Ellinger forever down in Texas, wondering when he was going to be great at Texas, and he never was. And I mean, I liked the kid. I thought he was a great story and everything else in Texas, and everything there seemed to be on the way for him to be. Sorry, my phone. One of those stupid calls. Everything seemed to be on the way for him to be a superstar in the making, and it never worked out. And what was he, a fourth round draft choice in Indianapolis?
Yeah, at best.
And I mean, and here's the thing you got to get to is like, this is where you wonder about Frank Reich. You know, everybody loves Frank Reich, and he seems to be a nice guy, and he was the great backup up in Buffalo, and he made that great comeback for him, and he was the
Sam Ellinger was a 6th round pick,
sixth round.
actually,
Okay,
number 218 overall in 2021.
but I
Sixth
mean,
round.
Reich is supposed to be another one of these gurus who doesn't know how to guru. I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate Andrew Luck decided to retire. We'll never know what would have happened if he had Andrew Luck the last 4 years. But he was given Philip Rivers, he was given Carson Wentz, and now he's been given Matt Ryan. And I know it's the older Matt version of Matt Ryan, but it's still Matt Ryan, and he looks terrible. So what do you
Yeah,
think
but
you're going to get out of Ellinger?
Yeah, but I mean, everyone. I mean, at some point, it's got to come back on someone else. I mean, the blame keeps getting shifted from Philip Rivers. We couldn't win with him. We're moving on. We're going to another quarterback, and then they bring in Carson Wentz. He sucks. Oh, we're getting rid of him. We're moving on. We're bringing in Matt Ryan. Oh, Matt Ryan sucks. We're getting rid of him. We're moving on from him. It's like at some point the onus has to fall back on this head coach. And I really got to believe that Frank Reich's on the hot seat here. And the only thing I can think of is that their hothead drug addict, alcoholic owner basically told them, if you want to keep your job, start playing to lose and get me CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. And we need to, restock the quarterback shelf with a youngster. And maybe they just want to lose. I don't know, but they're not going to, if they can't win with Matt Ryan, who's established himself as a Hall of Fame effing quarterback. Yeah. How are they going to win with a 6th round running back from Texas who hasn't started a game in the NFL in his entire career? And if I have to listen to one more press clipping about Frank Reich telling me how Sam Ehlinger can make all the NFL throws that he wants, I'm going to barf. Because when has he ever made an NFL throw in an NFL game in his career? I don't think he's ever played.
I thought at one time, weren't they going to make him a tight end?
Yeah.
I mean, they were talking, I think, last year or whatever he was drafted, of switching him to tight end.
Yeah, well, the only records that he holds at Texas is most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback. That's the lone record that he holds at Texas as a quarterback. He has the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback, 16 in 2018. That's it. So it's not like he ripped it up throwing the ball in college. He was a running back with the ability to throw it every once in a while. So this is a joke to me. And if you listen to the hoopla in the preseason, my favorite owner coming out and saying that, Matt Ryan is the best leader he's ever seen in his life. He's like what did he call him? He called him a Navy SEAL. He could be a Navy SEAL with the way that he handles his business. And, just went on and on and on talking about how he's like the greatest guy in the whole world. And now, we're 3-3-1 and you're benching him for the entire season. I mean, this makes absolutely no sense. I'm not buying any of the BS that they're trying to spit with that Sam Ehlinger deserves a shot. Okay, so let's say that they really are done with Matt Ryan, okay? They've decided, he's banged up a little bit. He's fumbled it 11 times. He's thrown a bunch of interceptions. We're just not trotting him out there anymore. Why don't you put in Nick Foles, who won a goddamn Super Bowl and was the MVP against Bill Belichick and the Patriots? Why are you going to your third stringer who is a running back?
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to the whole thing. And like you said, I mean, we saw last year with Matt Ryan that he kept Atlanta in a bunch of games. Yeah. So, I mean, has he played lousy the first 7 weeks? Yeah, but they also have not been running the ball with any kind of consistency. They haven't given him a lot of stuff. He might as well have stayed in Atlanta with the running game that they've given him in Indianapolis. So I don't get what like we talked about before we came on the air. They're in one of the weakest divisions in football right now.
Yeah.
That when you look at it, Jacksonville, who's seems to be disassembling their team too, even though they've got their quarterback of the future. They're talking about trading Josh Allen, their defensive, their one good defensive player. They're talking about trading him. You got Houston, who's a mess, and they're already talking about firing Lovie Smith after the poor guy they brought him in out of and gave him this team with Davis Mills as their quarterback. And you got Tennessee, like you said, that's one Derrick Henry injury away from being a below average football team. So, yeah, I mean, why are you giving up on this team this season?
They're 3-3-1. I mean, it's not like they're out of anything yet. I mean, have they been paying attention to the NFL? Because almost every team has lost 2 or 3 games. I mean, the New England Patriots are 3-4. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2-5. I mean, there's some big time football teams that are, the Green Bay Packers are 3-4. The Tampa Bay Bucks are 3-4. I mean, the Seahawks are winning the NFC West at 4-3. So how is 3-1 out of it? And how is a Hall of Fame quarterback who's led you to 3 wins the entire problem?
And
I don't get it.
and here's the thing: is I understand if you're going to tell me if I was to sit down with Frank Reich and Irsay right now, and they told me, look, there's no way you can tell me that we can beat the Bills in Kansas City come playoffs. Well, you beat Kansas City once already this year.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
So, and B is those two teams. You don't know what they're going to be like in January. You know, Josh Allen with the way he plays, you know, he could get hurt on any play, and then all of a sudden the Bills aren't that special. I mean, and you got Kansas City's the same thing. I mean, something could happen to Mahomes. You got to get to the playoffs, and you have a chance in that division to get to the playoffs. Why are you giving up on your season, especially like you pointed out? You have a ex Super Bowl winning quarterback. You have probably a quarterback that's going to end up in Canton, and you go to a third string quarterback. You even if in the unlikely right now on the likely chance that he wins 5 or 6 games for you, you don't think he's going to do that because you know he's not your quarterback in the future anyways. So what are you doing?
He's not the quarterback of the future. He's not the quarterback of the past. He's not a
president.
Quarterback. He's never even played in an NFL game. He has no stats, no starts ever playing in the NFL. I don't think he's ever started a game in his entire career. And like I said, if you've decided to move on, why don't you put the guy in there that's been an MVP in the Super Bowl? I think I believe in 2021 last year, Ellinger got in one game, and I think he ran the ball like 3 times or something. He's got 3 rushes for 9 yards. That's his stats. So I don't know if he was playing running back. I mean, I already said he is a running back, but let's talk about this let's go a little deeper into this, because a week ago, the Colts played the Jaguars, right? The Jaguars had beat the Colts, 7 times in a row? Matt Ryan goes 42 of 58 for 389 yards and 3 touchdowns and puts up 34 points and leads the Colts to a 3-2-1 record at that point. This is a week ago. The week before that, in week 5, as you just mentioned, they played the Kansas City Chiefs. And they played the Broncos the week before and beat them 12-9 in a game that was really grotesquely ugly, but they won. And then the week before that was the week that they
come from behind against the Chiefs.
Yeah, came from behind against the Chiefs. I think it was actually the week before that because they lost to the Titans in their 24-17. But in that game that they lost to the Titans, Matt Ryan was 27 of 37 for 356 and 2 touchdowns. So I'm not seeing where Matt Ryan is the problem. He's looked bad at times. He's been coughing the ball up way too much. But this season is by no means over for the Colts. Or it wasn't over for the Colts until now, when they decided to start Sam Ellinger, which is just an absolute joke, and it's laughable, honestly. That they're doing this and trying to make it sound like they want to do it to win, because that's the furthest thing from the truth.
The high level for Sam Ellinger is you can develop into a Taysom Hill type player.
Bingo. If you're lucky,
that's what he'd be great at.
If you're lucky,
right?
If everything goes right.
And it's just, well, like we said, and that's like I said before we came on the air. I mean, it's like when all the idiots around here who 3 weeks ago wanted to trade Saquon Barkley, and I'm like, he's the only thing the Giants have going right for him. And what you're telling your fans is F the season.
Well,
we're playing for draft choices? F it.
Yeah, what if you're a Colts season ticket holder who dropped thousands of dollars on your seats, your parking pass, and your PSL license, and your owner's telling you after week 7 that he's done and that he wants to tank for Tua? I mean, I don't understand this, and I just think it's a very bad look. And the people that are trying to justify it are out of their blipping minds.
Let's really be serious about this, and I'm not trying to be critical, but I get very leery, I should say, when I look at guys that come from big programs. You don't know what they're going to be like in the pros. I'll never forget when I looked at Tua his last year at Alabama. He played 2 games during the year where he played in the second half of the games he played. 2 games. So these guys never really get to see the whole field because they're usually on the bench in the second half because they're so far ahead. So you don't know what you're going to get with these guys most of the time. So I don't know. I just leave it at that. It's a bad decision, and we'll move up the line to Belichick and his using of his quarterbacks right now on Monday night against Chicago. I mean, Chicago outplayed them by a lot, but and I mean, Bailey Zappi is a good story, but I don't see a future really with him there. Mac Jones probably, in my estimation, should have sat out another week. And he played like a young guy who's afraid he's losing his job. I mean, he did everything that he didn't do last year. And it could be, because he doesn't have the strength of a Josh McDaniel on the sidelines. He's listening to Matt Patricia, who's a defensive guy, Joe Judge, whose expertise is special teams. I mean, I'm sure they sit in on those meetings and know a lot of more football than I'll ever know. But the fact of the matter is, it's not having Josh McDaniel whispering in his ear and coming up with game plans that feed to his strengths. And especially he's on a bad ankle, probably came back too soon, and he didn't look good at all.
No, he looked horrible. I mean, he started the game 3 of 6 for 13 yards, an interception. But, he did run around a little bit and looked like, potentially he was healthy. But just because your leg is healed up, that doesn't mean you're ready to play. I don't know. I thought this was a week, as we mentioned, where they should have sat him down, a precautionary week where you sit him down one more week. You didn't need him to beat the Bears. I mean, you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have needed him to beat the Bears. But what ended up happening was you put him out there maybe a little bit too quick after the injury. He's worried about Bailey Zapp, who had played pretty decently in the 2 games that he got to start. And so the crowd is chanting Zappi's name every time that he throws an incompletion. Right. Or, they go 3 and out. They started booing. He goes 3 and out again. They start cheering Zappi. And then he throws an interception, and they started cheering even louder. And all of a sudden, he takes him out and inserts Bailey Zappi. And, of course,
leads them right to a touchdown.
As magic would happen, he leads them down to 2 straight touchdown drives. They're down 10-0. They go up 14-10. The place is going nuts, and then reality set in. And the Bears actually had some play calling that looked like it was set up to make Justin Fields look good. They started running some plays that were fitting to his strengths, which I've never seen since he's been in Chicago. And look what happened. He started leading them down on 5 straight scoring drives. Most of them were field goals, but that doesn't matter. They were getting points, and the Bears defense was lights out, killing it. Roquan Smith was everywhere, 12 tackles. He had a sack. He had a tackle for loss. I believe he had an interception as well, if my memory serves me correct. There was 3 of them, so lots of people did. But, the defense looked great. I just was blown away by how well the Bears played. But really, it was almost like, Coach Belichick self-destructed the Patriots with his, pulling of the quarterback after 3 series. I mean, if you're going to start the guy and let him come back after 4 weeks away, 3 weeks away, you've got to give him more than 3 series to see if he's back and ready to go. It seemed very, very non-Belichick like for me, at least.
Well, I don't know if we can say it's non-Belichick like, because none of us know what he's going to do. He goes against the grain, but I mean, every once in a while when he goes against the grain, things like this happen. And he doesn't, the thing about Belichick right now in New England was, and I'm not trying to say it, but when he had Brady in his prime, the margin for error was okay. He could play around. He could sit there and be the smartest guy in a classroom and try and prove to you that he's the smartest guy in the classroom. And unfortunately, he's switching his coaching staff, his team it's getting switched on the fly. And Mac Jones, we don't know what he looked pretty good last year. He looked mature. He looked like the guy who could be your quarterback in the future. And I'm not ready. I wouldn't be ready to give up on him yet, but I do think he's not totally back yet. And I'm sorry, here's a kid who had to struggle to get his job at Alabama or get his chance at Alabama, had to sit behind, Tua and Jalen Hurts for years to finally get his chance. So I think there's probably is some insecurity problems in the back of his mind going, oh, this kid Zappy might take my job. So
well, I would be insecure too if I'm out on the field trying to win the game for my team and everyone in the stands is yelling for the guy behind me. I don't think you can be a human being and not let that affect you.
As John Madden used to always say, the most popular guy in a football team is the backup quarterback. It's just like everybody. The poor. I don't want to say poor, but that's what you want to be as a starting quarterback. But your mistakes are right out there in front of everybody. And when you're having a bad night, everybody knows it. Everybody gets booed. Joe Montana got booed. Johnny Unitas got booed. You got to get used to that. So.
Was he really having a bad night? I mean, he was out there for three series. He wasn't
out there long enough to have a night.
He was out there for 3 series. I mean, I couldn't believe how quickly that hook came when you named him the starter. I mean, if you were thinking about potentially pulling him, why start him at all? Start the guy that started the last 2 games and let him see what he could do. If he struggles, then you put Mac Jones in to save the day, and bam, there you go. There's your starting quarterback back in the good graces with the fans and back in the good graces with the teams and back in the good graces in his own mind. You don't do it the opposite way and wreck the guy's confidence.
Well, the funny thing is,
it's bad look.
You talked to me. You brought it up a week ago about after Zappy had a couple of good weeks, would we see Mac Jones going in? And as I said at the time, it wouldn't surprise me. We've seen, as I brought up at that time, we saw Brady or Belichick, I should say, in his first head coaching job, bench Bernie Kosar. And you come from Ohio. Bernie Kosar was as close to being a football god in the state of Ohio as there is with the Browns. And he chose Vinny, the interception machine, Testaverde over him, and benched Bernie Kosar. And then, you had, at the time, you had Drew Bledsoe, who was a number 1 overall pick, getting paid gobs of money, and had led the New England Patriots to a Super Bowl already. And you chose to go with an injury did it. But when Belichick or Bledsoe was ready to come back, you stayed with Brady, who at that point, nobody knew what he was going to be because he was more of a game manager at that time. So, I mean, sometimes maybe he gets a little too smart for his own good, and this might be one of those times. And maybe the whole thing about Belichick is, I don't know, he's human. Maybe he sees what's going on with the Jets, and he realizes the Jets are getting good. Miami's already giving us problems. I'm not as good as the Bills. My time of dominating, I mean, he had 20 years or 19, at least 19 years, where the Patriots were playing in a division where the other 3 teams sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, you could write them in for 5 victories just in their own division every year between 2001 and 2018. At least 5 victories right there. So just fill in the blanks for your other 6 victories, and you got home field advantage in the playoffs.
Yeah, and now, the Jets are much improved. The Dolphins are back with their quarterback, although, Tua did not look great the other night. We can get into that later. I think he had like 5 turnover-worthy throws in that game, which was a high for the week in the NFL. He just got lucky because the Steelers kept dropping straight interceptions that were thrown right in their arms. So I couldn't really understand that, but he didn't look great, but they still came away with the win and looked really good the first 3 games of the year, but they're 4-3. The Patriots now fall to 3-4. And how do you come back from this? I mean, you lose to a Chicago Bears team that's basically playing for next year. After the game's over, do the Bears look at themselves and be like, oh, here we go. Now we're on the run to the championship. No, they deal away their best player, Robert Quinn, on defense, besides Roquan Smith, who had 19 sacks last year, and ship him out of town for a 4th rounder. I mean, obviously the Bears didn't buy into the hype of themselves after this victory where they go into Foxborough and win 30-14. After the game's over, they drop their best sack guy over the past 3 years. So, I don't know what this means for the Patriots, but I got to be honest, I'm not confident in the Patriots moving forward because I'm not really sure who's going to be starting. I mean, I think Mac Jones will start the next game, but who knows? Who knows now? I mean, we certainly aren't going to get anything out of Mr. Belichick as far as what he's thinking.
No, he seems to be he seems to be worried. It's really weird in a NFL which looks to be very competitive this year. I mean, definitely Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Buffalo right now are on another level. Maybe Minnesota's close to them right now. So we'll put those 4 teams in another level. And then you got the teams at the bottom like Jacksonville, Carolina, Houston, not even Jacksonville, Carolina, Houston, and probably Washington or one of those teams at the bottom with those guys, Pittsburgh maybe. But there's a bunch of teams right in the middle who, if everything breaks right, could be in the playoffs. And, basically it's get to the playoffs and see what you can do. And for Belichick to be doing this, and that's the other thing that's going to be very interesting because, as I said, without having a Josh McDaniel there, who's going to talk these kids off a ledge? Certainly not Matt Patricia. Certainly not, Joe Judge. Neither of them can sit there and go to the kid and say, "Follow me. I'll teach you. I've shown you. You've seen me for years working with this quarterback and that quarterback. I'm a quarterback whisperer. I can help you now." There's nothing there for those kids to learn off of.
Yeah, no, I would be worried. I mean, it's not like you've got this guy who taught Tom Brady, what to do to get to 7 Super Bowls. I mean, it's a whole new world up in New England. And this was, I will admit, this was one of the criticisms going into the season was, how do you not have an offensive coordinator on staff? How do you not replace a guy like Josh McDaniels, who's been in your program for over a decade, with someone else to help bring this kid along who's in year 2 of his NFL career? I mean, it's like, oh, you're year 2, you win 10 games the first year. We're really counting on you to lead this team in year 2. We're going to give you no coach. We're going to give you, we're going to pull you after your 3rd series when you're coming back from an injury. I mean, they're just not really setting this kid up for success, in my opinion.
I was shocked he didn't go to a Bill O'Brien or something like that. He's been out of it for a while, but I mean, Charlie Weiss worked with him as an offensive coordinator up there. Bring Charlie Weiss, at least he's an offensive guy. I mean, even if he just babysits him, you just keep him out of, don't let him do a lot of stuff. I mean, at least he's got a little bit of a history there. But one thing I wanted to bring up, because we talked about it, we just went over it, but Jets losing Hall, that was a huge, right? Because he was having such a good rookie year. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big blow to this Jets team. I mean, he has been their most explosive offensive player over the last few weeks. I mean, you look at the victory over the Broncos, which was 16-9. There wasn't a ton of offense in this game, but the offense that did exist was Breece Hall before he went down with the injury. He had 4 carries for 72 yards, had a 62-yard touchdown. I mean, he was the offense. He was their only touchdown was by this guy, Breece Hall. So I'm very concerned with the Jets offense moving forward. Where do they go from here? I mean, do they lean on Michael Carter? I don't know. Michael Carter certainly isn't as good or as explosive as Breece Hall. And, Zach Wilson's kind of just been managing the game and trying not to throw it to the other team. So if you start putting more on his shoulders, does it go the other way? I think it potentially could.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing, was Hall and Carter were a good two-man tandem. Hall taking most of the snaps, but Carter being that change of pace guy to come in and giving him some time. So it was perfect. It was set up perfectly for him, and just did not need that to happen right now. I mean, we both, I mean, they were starting to turn the corner in my estimation. You know what I thought of them before the season, how wrong I have been. but we'll see. It's going to be because it's going to, next couple of weeks are going to be tough, and we'll see what happens. And the Giants right now, I have a bad feeling about them going out to Seattle because they never travel well to Seattle. And
yeah, I mean the Jets are 5-2 and definitely have gone through the tough part of their toughest part of their schedule, in my opinion. But some of those teams that we thought were going to be, good teams like the Steelers, like the Packers, like the Broncos, have all kind of been duds thus far this season. So we're going to get to see what the Jets look like against a Patriots team that's reeling after that loss to the Bears. And also, after the Jets lose their most explosive player on offense. So we'll see what they look like. I mean, that wasn't really an offensive show against the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver defense is very good. And I think, one of the best defenses in the league, in my opinion. But let's be honest, the Broncos were rolling Brett Rippon out there at quarterback. So they weren't doing a whole lot on the offensive side. Although, they haven't done anything with Russ either. So
the other thing to be worried about a little bit this week is the fact that, usually after New England has one of these weeks like they had, against Kansas City when, they were talking, when Brady had that bad week years ago. And then I remember back to Lawyer Malloy game where, Tom Jackson is saying he's lost the team and everything. And then all of a sudden they go on a winning streak. So, I mean, this will be a good test for Belichick because usually after he has one of these games where everybody goes, it's over with, his team comes back and he does something special. So, and it would just be their luck for to do it against the Jets.
Well, yeah, and not only do they have the Jets this weekend, but then the Jets played the Patriots, and then they at home, and then they play the Bills at home next week, and then the following week or the following game they go to New England. So they're going to play New England twice in the next 3 games.
Well, it's we'll see how good they are. We'll see how good Saleh can get them together. I mean, they don't have Hall, but they're going to have to bounce back from it. Did you hear anything where Elijah Moore, is he still yapping or has he been quiet? I haven't heard anything up here. It's kind of
he hasn't been around. He didn't travel with the team to the game. I mean, he wasn't active. He didn't travel to Denver for the game. I mean, they left him
I
at
haven't
home.
heard any talking about him here, whether they're going to bring him back or whatever. I don't know.
Well, I mean, how are they going to talk when he's not even with the team? I mean, they left him at home and just kind of said, "Here, man, get your stuff right and, see if you want to come back." But, he would be someone who, if they could get him mentally on the right page, could potentially pick up a little bit of that slack, left over from Breece Hall. But, they did sign James Robinson, the running back from Jacksonville this week. They picked him up and signed him immediately once they heard that Breece Hall was going to be out potentially, well, definitely for the rest of the season because it's not just his ACL. He tore his ACL and his MCL. So this is the same injury that Joe Burrow had, a couple of years ago. So this is bad news for Breece Hall and the Jets. But they did pick up James Robinson, who's been a serviceable player for the Jaguars over the last few years, but he's certainly not as explosive as Breece Hall was.
Let's see about that. And then, of course, we got the Brady and the Rodgers stories, which is we'll see what happens with Brady tonight, but can't be playing much worse than he has been right now. And half of the media, the worst thing about these two guys is nobody in the media will come out and just say, hey, they should be playing better. I know they don't have, you can look for excuses for them, but you shouldn't have to look for excuses for these two guys.
Well, I think there's more excuses to be made for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the Packers decided to not let him go. He wanted to leave Green Bay, and Green Bay would not relinquish him. They wouldn't trade him. They wouldn't let him walk. They hung tight on him, and they paid him. He's getting paid $59 million this year. There's no money to sign anyone else. I mean, exactly. They had to let Devontae Adams go. They had to let a lot of their defensive players go, like Zadarius Smith, and they didn't really bring anybody in. And the offensive line has, certainly suffered, as you could tell by only running for 38 yards this past weekend on the Washington Commanders, with Taylor Heineke at quarterback. So, I think the Packers' struggles are real because there's really nobody to pick up the slack. I mean, I don't think Aaron Rodgers just suddenly forgot how to play football. He just doesn't have any help. And, Brady still has at least some guys on his team that can get things going with Mike Evans and Godwin and Fournette and all those dudes. He certainly has some talent around him that he can lean on. But I don't know where the Packers go from here just because on offense they look lethargic at best. And the one receiver that's been doing anything, and Allen Lazard, is injured and is going to be out this week. So the future does not look bright for the Green Bay Packers, especially with the Bears playing better and the Vikings looking good.
Yeah, the Vikings are already 3 games up on them. So I mean, yeah, it's going to take a Rodgers miracle. But like I say, the other thing is that's when these quarterbacks go out of their way and get these huge contracts and leave nothing on the table for the team to deal with. This is what you're going to end up with, And I'm not trying to, you go back to the days of Joe Montana and Troy Aikman and those guys and John Elway. They left money on the table because they knew they needed an offensive line. They needed weapons. These quarterbacks today, I understand they want to get their money, but would you rather take $30 million and leave 15 on the table or 20 on the table to get yourself some offensive linemen or a couple of wide receivers?
Yeah, I mean these rookie wideouts for Green Bay, I mean, they've struggled. I mean, they're not in the right spot. It's making him look bad. And he came out and said this, in training camp. He's like, these guys are dropping balls. They're not running the right routes. They're not where they should be. And, it's continued. And, if you're looking for Sammy Watkins to come in and save the day, you got another thing coming because I'm surprised he hasn't been lost for the season yet with his usual leg injury.
And the other thing about Rodgers is he does a lot of stuff off script. So you have to have, wide receivers that are going to adjust to what he's doing. Come back to him. Go, if he's scrambling at the left, start moving towards him, do things like that. And you got rookies that don't know to do that and don't know, don't have that internal clock to say, wait, the ball's not up in the air. Where's Aaron? Yeah, I got to find him and rescue him.
Well, the one rookie wide receiver that's looked somewhat decent, Romeo Doubs, was lost in this game. He had 4 targets, he had 0 catches, he had a couple drops. He's the one guy that's looked like a potential wide receiver in the NFL moving forward. And this game, he just clearly regressed. And I got to be honest, I was a little bit blown away. I figured, the Packers going to get right. They're playing the Commanders. The Taylor Heineke hasn't played all year. I was like, this is a perfect opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to start playing better and get his team rolling. And what happens? They lose to Washington. That is not a good sign, in my opinion.
Yeah. We all thought it was freaky and it was a fluke when they lost to the Giants. Then everybody thought it was freaky and a fluke when they lost to the Jets. Maybe this is the real Packer team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm really not sure where they go from here. My biggest question is, where's Christian Watson? I mean, that's the guy that everybody was talking about. That was the guy that was supposed to come in and really help this offense out. The dude they drafted in the 2nd round out of North Dakota State. He was supposed to be their big weapon with his speed and with his size. He's 6'5", 208. He was the big dude that was supposed to come in and, help this offense. And he really hasn't done much. He's got 7 catches for 52 yards on the season. And he's been banged up. And he seems to can't really stay on the field and stay healthy in year 1. So I'm worried about this team big time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's take a look at our power rankings of the week. You want to start with yours?
Yeah, let's do it. Give me a second here to pull this up because I didn't know we were going there next, but I have it right here. Michael, row your boat ashore. Oh, where did we go?
Were you singing Michael, row your boat ashore?
I did.
Nice job.
Thank you, sir. Oh, here we go. All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Numero one. I actually am sticking with the Eagles.
Mhm.
And number one, they're undefeated. They have my boy Jalen Hurts, and honestly, they got better. They added Robert Quinn. They lost Derek Barnett earlier in the year with the knee injury. He's done for the season, and they replaced him with somebody who I think is an upgrade. And you know me, I love Derek Barnett. He's one of my
Yeah.
favorite players. Watching him play and break Reggie White's sack record over here at Tennessee, I'm a huge Derek Barnett fan. But I got to be honest, Robert Quinn is an upgrade. He's a little bit better against the run, and he's been more productive sack wise than Derek Barnett tenfold. So I think that the Eagles are the best team in the NFL, and I think they just got a little bit better adding in Robert Quinn from the Bears and only giving up a fourth rounder to get him. So I like the Eagles number one. I like the Bills number two. Beating I had the Chiefs number two as we were moving along here the last couple of weeks. But after the Bills beat the Chiefs, I got to go with the Bills number two. I still kind of, everybody's like, well, the Bills don't need to add a running back; they just need to run it more. And I'm like, no, I think they need to add a running back. The reason they don't run it more is because they don't
They
really
don't have a
have
running
anybody.
back.
They don't have anybody that's any good. And Singletary, I think, has been a disappointment. Zach Moss, I think, has been a disappointment. And then James Cook, they never really play. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. As you and me both discussed, running Josh Allen 20 times a game is not good for his health. So we'll see how that goes going forward. But I definitely have the Bills number two. I've got the Chiefs three. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I've got the Cowboys at number four. And that's just because their defense. I mean, their offense has struggled. Their offense has had Cooper Rush running it, and it hasn't really mattered. I mean, Dak came back, looked a little rusty to me, honestly, but they still won and still got it done. And I'm blown away by how well Coach Quinn has done. I mean, just think back a couple of years ago, the Cowboys were what 20 high 20s, maybe 30s in their overall total defense, and now they're a top five defense, if not better. So that 24-6 victory over the Lions was impressive, in my opinion. I've moved them way up. I've got the Vikings at number five. I've got the Giants number six. I've got the Bengals number seven, the Ravens number eight, the Dolphins number nine, and I've got the 49ers number 10.
All right. I definitely agree on the top three for you. With you, I got Philly, Bills, and Kansas City. I went with Minnesota number four. I think what the new coaching staff has shown is how much Mike Zimmer held them back for the last 3 years. And since they've only lost one game, I got them at four. I got Cincy at five, but this is before I made out this list before Chase's injury was announced. So yeah, I'll put that five with a question mark. And then I got Dallas after them. I got the New York Giants after Dallas at number seven. I got Baltimore at number eight. I got Tennessee at number nine, and I got the New York Jets at number 10.
Wow. Well, we'll see. I'm kind of I had the Jets in there, but I'm kind of thinking about Brees Hall being gone. I'm thinking about Elijah Moore refusing to play and demanding a trade, and I'm looking at their schedule over the next 3 weeks, and I see three losses. To be honest with you, they're playing the Patriots, they're playing the Bills, and they're playing the Patriots again. I think hey, I'm loving this Jets thing. I haven't seen the Jets play like this since freaking Rex Ryan's ass was the coach. And that was a long time ago, and they kind of won in spite of him.
Yeah.
But I've been enjoying it. The Jets being 5-2 is just blowing me away. But I got to be honest, I'm not buying it. I don't think they can sustain this with the quarterback play that they've got. No, nothing against Zach Wilson, but let's be honest, he's pedestrian at best, stats wise, and getting outstatted by Brett Rippon, who I think was his second start of his NFL career. That's not a good look, especially with the way the Broncos offense has been playing. So that's why I dropped them out.
I'm just thinking. Well, this is going to be telltale, like we just talked about a couple of minutes ago. This is the game. Usually, when Belichick comes up with one of those game plans where you sit there and he beats the crap out of the Jets because he looked so stupid last week, he's not going to look stupid again. And this would be the time. So, but I'm going to give the Jets for what they've done so far. Pretty impressive. That's why I put them in number 10. But like I said, when you go 8 through 10, 3 other teams could fly up there next week very easily. The Niners could get back in there with me, whoever. So we'll see what happens. On the bottom of the list, I got Houston, Detroit, and Carolina. Even though Carolina had their best game probably in 3 years, beating Tampa Bay, if you look at that. But those are my bottom 3.
My bottom 3 are Denver, Detroit, and Houston. I got to be honest, man. I kept waiting for Denver to break out. And I'm sorry, Bradford, if you're watching today. One of our most avid followers is a huge Broncos fan, and I love Bradford to death. But I kept waiting for things to get right with the Broncos, and it seems like it's gotten worse. And I don't know if Russell Wilson, is the answer there. I got to be honest. Their offense looks inept, and I think it's twofold. I think Russ has been on decline. I think he's more concerned with being a celebrity than he is being a quarterback, and I think this coach is way in over his head. He's got clock management issues. He's got game management issues. His offensive game plans are absolute garbage.
Joke.
And from what I hear, the Broncos are big time sellers. They're shopping Bradley Chubb. They're trying to get him out of town. Jerry Jeudy is on the table. My prediction is if they lose to Jacksonville, they're playing at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in London against Jacksonville. If they go down in that game, which I'm predicting they do, I think it's going to be a damn yard sale, and you're going to be able to get Broncos players on the cheapy cheap.
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, and like you said, everything about that. The thing about Detroit is I really feel sorry naming them number three or one of my bottom 3. But I mean, I like Dan Campbell. I like the personality. I like him, but he's got to do something to get either a good offensive coordinator. He's got to put together a coaching staff that can help him. And I feel sorry for Jared Goff because he's nothing but class. But
I'm sick of hearing about how great a coach he is. They won 1-2 games last year. They're 1-5 this year. At some point, you have to start winning, or it's just the same old Detroit Lions. And to me, it's the same old Detroit Lions. I mean, this is year 2. How many years are you going to get? You're going to leave him the coach there for 9 years and let him build it up? I mean, I haven't seen them win. Yet. So I like him too, but I'm just saying, what's he done?
He's out of central casting. He's a media darling. He's the kind of guy. He says all the right things. He's that throwback old Bill Parcellian type coach that's tough guy and says all the right things. He doesn't have a good coaching staff behind him. Bill Parcells never had to worry.
He picked the damn coaching staff.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Bill Parcells never had to worry because he put together a great coaching staff, so he could afford to be the CEO. He could afford to do this. This guy, somebody's got to. I think he's going to bottom out this year, and we're going to have a new Detroit coach next year. But
that's exactly what I'm saying.
But the thing is that as well as I do, better than I do. You can be the smartest guy in the room, but if you look what Belichick's going through right now without Josh McDaniel, you know what I mean? It's like you got to have the right coaches behind you.
Well, you got to have somebody to help. You have to be you got to be able to delegate. I mean, look at all these college coaches throughout the years. The guys that have had continued success are the guys that bring in people behind them that they can delegate duties to. Look at Urban Meyer and all the guys that he had, as offensive coordinators who went on to be head coaches. Look at all the guys that Nick Saban had that have gone on to be head coaches. I mean, they've had unbelievable assistants with them, and I think that's part of the formula to be a winner.
There's no other sport where coaching means so much than look at the Giants. Daboll knows what he's doing. The GM knows what he's doing. He's not worried. He goes out and gets Martindale. And he's not worried that, around here, Martindale is getting a lot of worship for what he's doing with this defense. But he knew enough to put a good staff together. And it's working with the Giants. This is the same team Joe Judge had last year. And look how much better they look.
I agree.
So, and let's see. The players of the week I went number 3. I gave it to PJ Walker because I'll probably never say it again. But I mean, he did come out of nowhere to beat the Buccaneers. I'm going to give him his 1 week on my list because I don't know. You and I talked about before. I mean, as bad as Baker Mayfield's looked, as bad as we know as Sam Darnold is, PJ Walker is not better than both of them.
No.
And there's just no reason for Steve Wilkes, outside of the fact that he's maybe giving the middle finger to the owner of the team for coming out in the press and saying he's an interim coach. He has no chance of being here. Maybe he just says, screw it. I'm going to make it so hard for it to be watched, whatever. My number 2 guys is a double whammy here. The running attack of Saquon and Daniel Jones on Sunday was phenomenal, especially in the second half, what they did. Both getting 100 yards. First time a Giant running back or a Giant quarterback, I think, had 100 yards in a game since 1946.
Holy crap.
Well, Phil Simms was not exactly a track star, and neither was Eli. So,
no.
I mean, and Saquon has been, I don't care what Boomer Esiason or anybody else who sits there and goes, put him on the market. Look, keep him. Let's see if the Giants can make a playoff run. If they can re-sign him, great. If he moves on, it's unfortunate. If he wants to be here and he wants to work out a reasonable deal, I don't see, as long as he stays healthy, I don't see a reason why not to keep him around. And Joe Burrow on Sunday was just he was throwing rockets that just were magnificent.
Yeah, I have Joe Burrow on my list, 32 of 42, 481 yards and 3 touchdowns. Absolutely unbelievable. My number 2 player of the week is actually 2 guys. I combined it. I like to do that. It lets me.
I just did it.
It lets me get 4 guys. And the 2 guys that I've got in my number 2 spot is first Josh Jacobs from the Las Vegas. I was like Oakland, Los Angeles, Las Vegas Raiders. 20 carries, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was phenomenal. And then Kenneth Walker, the third, out of Seattle. He's finally getting on the field. He's finally getting some touches. He had 23 carries, 167 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was the leading rusher in the NFL this week. Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker formed a heck of a duo so far. And then Patrick Mahomes is my number 3, 25 of 34, 423 yards and 3 touchdowns in a epic beatdown of the 49ers, 44-23.
Where's Tyreek Hill?
Tyreek Hill is not on the team anymore, and it certainly doesn't matter. That's what I'm talking about, with old Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have any weapons, but, you took away Tyreek Hill from Kansas City, but they replaced him. I mean, as I said in the preseason when we were breaking this all down, I'm like, they're not going to replace Tyreek Hill with one guy. But you add in Noah Gray, Jody Fortson, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, McCole Hardman, Jerick McKinnon, Travis Kelce, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Juju Smith-Schuster,
right,
who finally had a huge game. You add all those guys in, and that's plenty of targets for old Patrick Mahomes. And Pacheco, Isaiah Pacheco, who I never heard of out of Rutgers, has silently become a pretty good little running back for the Chiefs and giving them another weapon.
So that was a good week for those guys. And now I had a terrible week last week picking. Oh my God. I'm now back under 500, 10 and 11. I was 0 for 3 last week.
Oh wow.
0 for 3.
That is not good, buddy.
Green Bay, I forgot about the Taylor Heineke effect on Washington.
Yeah.
And of course, Tom Brady, I forgot that, he's sitting there just brokenhearted over Giselle. So that didn't help me. And then Atlanta got fooled on Atlanta. So.
Oh yeah, I was only 1 for 3, so I didn't
What's
do
your
much
overall
better.
record?
I picked the I think we're even now because you were one ahead of me and I got 1 win, so I think we're actually even.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, I picked the Packers and the Falcons too.
Yeah.
Well, who picked any of this crap? I wish I hadn't have found the sheet. I would have just lied and said that I did better, but the sheet is right here in front of me, and so there's your answer. I suck too.
All right, you want to give me your first pick of the week?
Yes, I've got my picks right here. I'm going with the Ravens tonight. Every time I pick the Ravens, especially anytime I pick against Tom Brady, he always figures out a way to make me look stupid, but I don't care. I hate Tom Brady, and I love Lamar Jackson, so it'll just make the game even more fun for me to cheer for. The Bucs are favored by 2, so I'm picking the Ravens, and I've got the points with me. The next game is the Tennessee Titans are playing the Texans. The Titans are favored by 2.5. I'm picking the Titans to cover. And then the third game is the Commanders versus the Colts. Somehow, with Sam Ellinger etched in at quarterback for the Colts, they are still favored by 3 points, even after Taylor Heineke beat down Aaron Rodgers last week. So I'm going to go ahead and take those 3 points, and I'm taking Taylor Heineke and the Commanders.
Well, we agreed on 2 of these. I got Tennessee and Washington myself. The other game I picked is I'm going with the Niners getting 1.5 from the Rams. Or no, they're giving 1.5 to the Rams. I'm sorry, giving 1.5 to the Rams. I just think the Niners still. Until the Rams can prove it, and the Rams are beat up, the Niners seem to have their number. So I'm going with the Niners.
Yeah, I've got it looks like the Niners are favored. So yeah, I don't know. That game's kind of a pick 'em game. I mean, the Niners have kind of owned them, but they're both mediocre so far this year. So I have no idea who's going to win that game, and I'm not going to pretend to know.
It's so funny, how fickle the NFL is, because with this one time last year, we're sitting there going, man, the NFL East just sucks. And now we got 3 of those teams in our top 10. And now we're looking at the AFC or the NFC West going, my God, you look at the Niners, you look at the Rams, you look at Arizona. Oh, my God, they're dominant teams. And we're sitting there going, looking for a reason to pick them.
Yeah.
So it's the way they change. And one guy I wanted to talk about before we get off the air here, you may love him, you may hate him, you may not like him, you may not have liked him at USC. He's always Pete Carroll can damn well coach.
Oh, Pete Carroll's always coached, and I think he's always been one of my favorite coaches in college as well as the NFL. He's just a guy that has nonstop energy, but it's more than that. He's got energy, he's got charisma, but he's a great coach too. He's got a great mind at scheme. He's a great mind at personnel. And, everybody questioned the move when they were like, oh, what? They're trading Russell Wilson for, to the Broncos, and they're going to roll out there with Drew Lock and Geno Smith, and everyone picked the Seahawks to be, one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
And to be honest, their offense has been one of the best. If they had a little bit more talent on defense, who knows where they'd be. But right now, I think you got to give Pete Carroll potentially, right on line to be one of the coaches of the year. Now, I think your boy at the Giants, Brian Daboll, is definitely up for the award at the halfway point. But I think you've got to include Pete Carroll's name as well. And of course, the Eagles coach, Sirianni, I think he needs to be considered on that list as well. And maybe even, O'Connell, the coach at Minnesota.
Yeah, especially, O'Connell and Sirianni showed us last year, you coach.
Yeah.
O'Connell and Daboll, just what they've done in their first year is phenomenal. But back to Pete Carroll, is like he's another guy who is not afraid to make the tough decisions. I'm sure when it had to come down, he was like, "Man, I'd love to keep Russell Wilson, but for the right price." He's one of those guys who understood that paying Russell Wilson what he wanted on his extension or whatever he got for going to Denver was going to just kill Seattle for the next 10 years, just like it's probably going to kill Denver.
Well, you remember they went out and signed Matt Flynn and gave him a big contract, and then they did their due diligence and the pre-draft workouts and the combine and all that, and they really liked Wilson. And Russell fell to him in the third or fourth round or whenever it was, and he grabbed him. And then he watched him in training camp, he watched him in fall camp and the rookie mini camps and all that, and he's like, "Whoa, Matt Flynn, see you later, buddy. You're not starting for this team." And he made the decision. So he's a good talent evaluator, and he's an excellent football coach.
And I'll tell you what, across the board, if you got to talk to a GM or a coach in football, they'd sit there and go, "Oh, I wish we were paying Matt Flynn money again." Because that looks like a bargain at what they're paying now. My God. I mean, what did he get? $12 million a year? Something like that.
I'm trying to think of what the contract was. Where is Matt Flynn? Is there an APB?
I'm probably doing LSU games with Tommy Hodson.
No, I think that's what's his name? Jacob Hester. I think he's the one. But yeah, he signed I'm trying to think. There was a 3-year contract, 3 years, $19 million, I believe was the deal. So that was a pretty good number. But the thing was, he hadn't really started a game. I mean, he was the backup in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And he got to play a few games when one of the Super Bowl Hall of Fame quarterbacks was banged up. He played in like 3 or 4 games, and all of a sudden he was the big hot commodity. And the Seahawks gave him $19 million and then showed him the door.
Yeah, he was that year's Bailey Zappi.
Yeah.
only Bailey Zappi's not going anywhere. So what do we got coming up on Man Coverage this week?
We are going to be breaking down college football week number 9. And I'm going to be on location on Saturday, right down the street here, as Tennessee takes on Kentucky in the battle for the beer barrel. And that one's going to be kicking off at 7 o'clock on ESPN, number 19. I don't know how Kentucky's ranked number 19 because they certainly don't deserve that ranking, but they are ranked number 19. Tennessee is ranked number 3. They're 7-0. See if they can keep it going. The Vols are favored by 12. But we got a bunch of other good games going on this weekend as well. Ohio State's traveling to the whiteout at Penn State. TCU's playing West Virginia. Notre Dame's got Syracuse, Florida, Georgia, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. We got some good ball games, and we'll be breaking it down as we always do, and we'll have a mystery guest as well on Sunday at 1 o'clock p.m.
That does not make me feel good. 2 programs I loved growing up were Penn State and Notre Dame, and Syracuse, after what they almost did against Clemson.
Yeah.
Just Marcus Freeman better coach his ass off. And, of course, you know how I feel about the Sam Clifford extended warranty he's been given at Penn State. It's a waste of time. And I just have this feeling that we're going to see Ohio State up by like 28 at halftime.
I would be okay with that. Right now, you've got C.J. Stroud is 133 for 190 for 2,023 yards and 28 touchdowns. Now, the only guy that's anywhere close to that is Hendon Hooker at Tennessee, who's 137 for 194 for 2,093 yards, but only 18 touchdowns. So C.J. Stroud has 10 more touchdowns than Hendon Hooker, who a lot of people are calling for him to be the Heisman favorite. Well, he's 10 touchdowns behind, and C.J. Stroud is sat out the second half of about 7 of these games.
That goes back to the talent situation. I mean, the thing is, as a writer, as a writer at heart, I'm on Hooker's side because it's a better story. I mean, C.J. Stroud is kind of as expected. Nothing against him; he's a great player, but to see a guy, putting Tennessee back on the map.
Well, I know, but you can't give the Heisman to someone who's 10 touchdown passes behind. A guy who has played about 10 less quarters. I mean, that's That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we'll see. It's like I said, writers are fickle. Writers like the story. Writers like to.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Usually in the Heisman, the right guy gets it. There's very infrequently the wrong guy.
We'll see what happens. I mean, if Hendon Hooker leads the Vols to victory over Kentucky, if he beats Georgia and gets it done, well, then he deserves it. But if C.J. Stroud continues playing like he is, I mean, people were like, "Oh, he struggled. He lost the Heisman last week against Iowa. They won 54-10, and Iowa has the third-ranked defense in all of football. So get the hell out of here with that."
Those are probably the same guys who voted for Gino Torretta.
Gino.
All right, my friend. Have a great night. Hey, and you and your daughter have fun on Halloween. Don't eat all our candy.
I will try not to. I'm not a big candy guy anyway, so I'll pass on that. But she loves Halloween, man. She loves wearing costumes. She loves dressing up. We've already had 2 parties, and we got 2 more parties, and then Halloween itself. So it's going to get a little crazy. But I'm going to the game on Saturday. I'm got to get another look at these Vols, and I want to see what Kentucky's about too, because I'm trying to figure out how they're ranked number 19 after getting shellacked twice.
Well, I was very interested in seeing how Will Levis would be this year, but right now with Daniel Jones, I don't think we need him.
Nope, I think you're good.
All right, my friend, have a good night. Let's see if your Ravens can take care of the Bucks. Talk to y'all later. See you guys next week.
Go Lamar.